Hey YouTube, I'm back. We're gonna do chicken soup in the pressure cooker today. You're gonna love it. Super fast, super easy. Let's get started. All right, so pressure cooker. There's Mr. Presto right there. Butter, one of the first ingredients. Get this thing warming up. Other ingredients. Chopped onion, about a medium chopped onion. This is just chicken. We did a bunch of drumsticks the other day in the air fryer, and we had, I don't know, 6 of them that were left over. I took the chicken off from the bones. Carrots. Of course, you don't have to have all this stuff in there if your diet doesn't allow it, or you don't like carrots or corn or whatever. A can of corn, drained. I got a can of green beans. And I probably should have had another potato. I did 3 potatoes peeled and chopped. I do use a little of this. I don't like to put a lot in until the end, just because sometimes you can get it a little bit too salty. So I usually wait. And then the secret ingredient at the end, some egg noodles. And that's after it's pretty much been cooked. But I take the onion, I kind of saute it up a little bit in that butter, right in the pressure cooker itself. So try to get that to melt up and get them onions to turn a little translucent, maybe even brown them a little bit. And then what I like to do is throw in the chicken. So let me get these kind of browning. I'll be right back. Okay, the onions are starting to cook up. They smell amazing in there. I was gonna say, if you don't want to use the chicken powder, you can actually, I don't have any with me today, but chicken broth, is really good, either out of the can or the box. But what I do is when them onions are getting pretty close, I throw the chicken in, and I let that kind of all marinate together in there with the onions and the butter. And that brings out a lot of flavor too. I've done this before where I've actually taken the chicken bones, the drumsticks, and put them in the soup, and then, sorry about that, and then pulled them out after it cooked in the pressure cooker. I just pulled them out with a pair of tongs, just to get some of the bone broth action going on. But and that tastes really good. I've also used cabbage, just green cabbage at the end instead of noodles. So I chopped some up, and when the pot's done cooking, I'll open it up and I'll throw in the cabbage, kind of stir it, and I'll put the lid back on and let it sit for another 15 minutes or so. And that softens up that cabbage enough, but it still leaves it a nice texture in there too. I like different textures in my soup. I don't like everything just to be all mushy. So I kind of put things in and cook them at different times sometimes. I've also thrown in rice at the end. Put a little bit of rice in there. You don't supposed to do rice in a pressure cooker because of the fact that on the pressure cooker, that center hole right there, you should be able to see through it. I don't think I can get it, but anyway, that hole is the breather hole, the blowhole. It's like a whale. And so that has to be clear. And so I always hold it up and look through it and make sure I can see through it. Well, it's about the size of a piece of rice. And so they always worry that, rice can get stuck in there and block the hole. So, it could happen for sure. All right, so what I do is I put in my potatoes, my corn, my green beans, carrots, And then I do, you know, like a heaping tablespoon of the chicken powder just to get started with it. It's just a, you know, if you got a lot of salt on your chicken and you're using the skin and stuff off the chicken, it has a tendency to make the batch a little bit salty. And as you can see, it needs a little bit more water. I like to bring it up above the vegetables, like just to clear it. So I put all my veggies in, then I bring it up just enough to where it covers the veggies. And then, like I said, if you're going to use rice, today I'm going to use some noodles, so I'm going to go a little bit more because the noodles are going to take up quite a bit of that too. So I'll go probably a couple inches of the soup. It's probably good enough because I'm not going to put a ton of noodles in it anyway. A couple handsful. So I give it a good stir. I like black pepper in mine. I think that chicken soup is really good with it. I don't do a lot because I think everybody can adjust it to their own taste, but I think it's good to be cooked in with it. And what I'll do is I'll stir this up, and you can get a pretty good idea, you know, if it's salty enough or not quite salty enough. And that's to, you know, taste the broth. That's pretty good. So I think I'm just going to let that go where it's at. I like mine a little bit saltier than that, but like I said, it kind of changes when after you cook it. So I'm going to let that go. I'm going to bring this thing up to a boil and I'll be right back. Okay, I was going to say too, you can do this with beef. You can do beef stew the same exact way. Other than chicken, just put the beef in there, and you can use the chicken broth or the beef broth or whatever with either one. I think it tastes good either way. So if I'm using the chicken, I can put beef bouillon in there, or I can use the beef broth. The beauty in the beef, it's kind of like Beauty and the Beast. The beef, as you're sauteing it in the pan, you get all those kind of drippings there in the bottom of the pressure cooker. So when you're browning your meat in the bottom of there, you're getting a ton of flavor off the bottom. So be real careful on how much bouillon you're putting in. Usually a little salt and pepper. I mean, I like to get it decent, but I don't want to make it overpowering for people that are watching their sodium or whatever. So yeah, anyway, exactly the same with beef as it is with the chicken. The chicken is good, you know, if you can brown it up on the bottom too. Say you're using chicken breasts or raw chicken and you're just going to cook it in the bottom. Leave all them drippings and stuff in the bottom, and then as your pot is warming up, just kind of scrape the bottom of it with your wooden spoon. And as it's cooking, all that'll loosen up and get into the soup. So okay, it's still waiting for it to come to a boil, and I'll be right back. Okay, so you can see it's kind of moving around in there. At this point, you know, you don't want to bring it up to a roaring boil before you get your lid on, but I watch it and make sure that it's at least moving around in there before I put the lid on there, just so I can give the bottom a scrape. Make sure stuff's not sitting on the bottom while it's going. Yeah, so I've got the burner on high, and this thing here is setting itself right now, that little lock. And this one, all that does just pushes itself up and it seals. Builds up enough pressure inside the pot, and then it'll start wobbling this. And I mean, most of the time, I mean, this thing, I'm only going to let it run for about 7 minutes. So you can do it either way. You can run it, you know, just keep turning your temperature down. As long as you keep this rocking, you're good to go. And or the way I like doing it is I bring it up to temperature. When that starts rocking, I shut it off, and I'll set the timer for about 7-8 minutes. You can go as far as 10. It depends on how much, I mean, your meat and everything's already cooked because you've either browned it in the bottom of the pan, or it was cooked before, or it was canned chicken that you were using, or whatever you want to put in there. The onions are sauteed, so it doesn't take a ton of time on the onions. The carrots would be the only thing that you might want to go a little bit longer just because of the carrot, but I've put celery in here. I've used cabbage and all kinds of stuff. I mean, you could put mushrooms in, take your pick of favorite veggies and put them in there. I don't like broccoli in it or cauliflower because it does seem to cook down so fast that it's just kind of a, it's little floater pieces is all you get out of it anyway. So I think what I'll do today is I'll just keep trimming the power down until it's at a slow rock. And then no, I think I've changed my mind. I think I'll do it and just let it go on its own, because it's probably going to rock for a couple of minutes anyway. And then I'll take it over to the sink and pour cold water over the top of it so I can open up the lid. And then I'll put the noodles in. I'll put a couple handfuls of these wide egg noodles in there, and I'll just put the lid back on it, and I'll just walk away for another 10 minutes and then come back to it. The noodles will cook on its own power. So anyway, it sounds like it's just getting ready to take off right now, actually. Yep. So what I'll do here is I'll set the timer, and I'll probably just take it up to 7-8 minutes. I went 8 minutes on it, and let this go to where it's dancing around there pretty good like that, and I'll just shut it off, and then I'll let it go the 8 minutes, and I'll come back and get you. Woohoo! Look at her go. That thing's cruising. Okay, so the timer says 6 minutes on it. It's been 2 minutes. You can see how that's settled way down. But it's still rocking on its own, and this has been with the power off this whole time. So, well, so now the timer says 5 minutes, so it's been 3 minutes before it's settled completely down. It's still rocking. Okay, so it's almost, the 8 minutes are almost up, and so the timer's, okay, so the timer's going off. There's 8 minutes. Now, the food inside of here is cooked. It's done, but you can see there's still a lot of pressure in that pot. So, again, if you want to stop the cooking process, or you want to be able to open the lid ever, and like I do today, because I got to put those noodles in there and let them cook, this is what I do. I take that over to the sink. I run cold water on the top. I'm just going to splash it around on there a little bit, and I watch for that. When that thing drops, which this is mostly liquid in here, there's a lot of soup, so it's going to take a minute. But when that drops, it releases all the pressure inside that pot. See, there it goes. And this is actually a vacuum that you hear right there. So you can take that pressure valve off. At that point, there's no pressure in that pot. And then I take it back over to the burner. Hang on, going for a ride. Okay, so, the weight's off from it. Everything in there is cooked. I mean, I've done it for 7 minutes before, and I know it's done. Again, when you take these lids off, just make sure you open it away from yourself. And all little kids, if there's any watching this video, don't mess with the stove. You'll get burnt unless your parents are there with you. So I just set this to the side. Give it a stir. Oh, it smells good. Like I said, I just you know, throw in, I don't know, a couple hands full of these egg noodles. So now we got chicken noodle soup. You could do some rice if you wanted to thicken it up. So I stir in them noodles, and then I just put the lid back on it. Okay. And then I just let it sit. I'll just set this timer for 10 minutes. And I'll come back in 10 minutes. We'll take the lid off and look at it. Hi, buddy boy. How are you doing? He can smell that chicken soup cooking, and he came out. Handsome. I don't know if you can see him or not. He's all, there you go. Hi. Good looking dude right there. Yep. He's wanting some chicken soup. Anyway, we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Well, I guess it will only take a second for you, but oh yeah, all the Valentine wigglers are going, and we're way past Valentine's Day because Grandma's watching grandkids, and I ain't putting it away. I'll be in trouble if I did it. Okay, I'm back. I had the timer set for 10 minutes, but I ran outside to do something and got busy on something, and it doesn't really matter how long you go. I think I probably went 15 minutes or instead of 10 because the timer was going off when I came in, but it was probably about 15 minutes or so. As you can see, there's plenty of hot steam in there. Oh yeah, see, the noodles are cooked up good, big. I'll show you how this is. So the carrots, you know, usually are one of the harder things to cook, but as you can see, I mean, it's smashable. Yet everything else is still intact, right? I mean, you got your green beans and onions and the noodles. Ooh, hot. So sitting on the stove with the power off, after I put them noodles in there, and you can see how hot that is. It's probably still see the steam. You know, it's just cooking them noodles on its own heat. It's trapped in that pot, but you can see everything's still intact, but very tender, you know. Yep, very good. Okay, well, are you ready for some chicken noodle soup? That's amazing stuff right there. You know, carrots, potatoes, corn, green beans, some chicken, some noodles. Celery's really good in it. I love celery in mine, or cabbage is good too. But that is a good hot meal. You know, you can, like I said, do the same thing with the beef. The beef's actually really good because of the fact you can brown it in your pot, and then it gives it more of a gravy texture. This is so hot I can't even eat it, but let me see if I can get a cool off a bite here. Yep, really good. Like I said, you know, everybody's tastes are a little bit different. To me, it's perfect. I don't think I'd put anything else in this, but you definitely want to put, you know, salt and pepper on the table because some people might want a little bit saltier taste or whatever, but I hate putting too much in because you can't take it back out. So anyway, this is chicken noodle soup in 8 minutes or whatever. I know it's I cooked it pretty much for 8 minutes and cooled it off and put the noodles in, but yeah, I don't know, what, a half an hour or something like that, and you're done. You got a homemade meal. And the green beans and the corn were on sale for 59 cents. No, they weren't even on sale. That was just the store brand that I used. The Chestnut Hill wide egg noodles. I mean, I didn't use that many of them. I mean, there's still half a bag. I don't think it was full when I started, so, you know, I don't know, that was $1 for the whole bag, so you use 50 cents worth of noodles. I used 3 carrots, 3 potatoes, 1 can of corn, 1 can of green beans, some leftover chicken, and a tablespoon of the chicken powder and water. I don't know if this whole big pot costs $5, you know, I'd be shocked. Probably more like $3-4. But anyway, great meal. Give it a shot. I mean, the pressure cooker helps a ton for sure, but you could do this on a stovetop, just, you know, boiling it open like that. And, you know, just an open pot of any style would work. But yeah, I mean, take it apart and give it a swirl and taste it and see if it needs salt and pepper. If you think it does and you're the one eating it, put more chicken powder in it or whatever it is you need. Oh, and an onion. I did use an onion and a quarter of a stick of butter. Anyway, that's the end for this video. Pay attention to your surroundings and remember where you came from and remember how to get back there. Until next time, we'll see you.